My husband's billionaire mistress grabbed my arm in the middle of the company party and dragged me toward the exit like I was a stain on the marble floor. The music kept playing for 3 seconds. Then it stopped. Not because anyone told the band to stop. Because the singer saw my heel scrape against the polished floor, saw the champagne spill from my glass, saw my husband standing near the stage with his mouth half open, and forgot the next line. Every head turned. Executives, investors, board members, department heads, people who had spent years walking past me in that same company building without knowing my name. Or worse, knowing it only as something small. Elena, the quiet wife. The woman Daniel brought to events when he needed to look respectable. The woman who smiled beside him in photos. The woman who stayed 2 steps behind while he shook hands with powerful people and acted like he had built everything alone. Tonight, I had come to the annual Meridian Global Holdings party because I was invited. Not as Daniel's wife, not as his guest, as the person nobody in that ballroom knew they should have been thanking. But Daniel did not know that. And his mistress, Cassandra Voss, definitely did not know. Cassandra was beautiful, in the expensive way that made people forgive her before she even apologized. Tall, smooth-skinned, sharp-eyed, dressed in a silver gown that caught every light in the room, like the chandelier had been built to serve her. She was the daughter of a billionaire investor and the owner of Voss Capital, one of the most aggressive private investment firms in the country. She had entered Daniel's life 6 months earlier as a strategic partner. That was what he called her, strategic. Partner. 2 words people use when they want to hide betrayal behind business. At first, I heard her name in passing. Cassandra thinks we should expand into West Africa. Cassandra says the logistics division is undervalued. Cassandra has access to capital Daniel could never get from ordinary banks. Then came late calls. Then weekend trips. Then the smell of unfamiliar perfume on his jacket. Then the dinner receipts. Then the photo. A blurred photo sent to me by someone who did not even add words. Daniel and Cassandra, standing on a balcony at a private investor retreat, his hand resting low on her back, her face turned toward him with the comfort of a woman who did not believe she was borrowing anything. When I confronted him, Daniel did not deny it. He simply sighed and said, "Elena, don't reduce a complex business relationship to your insecurity." Insecurity. That was the word he used whenever truth came too close. Tonight, Cassandra had looked at me across the ballroom like I was an old chair left in a renovated room. At first, she only smiled. Then she whispered something to Daniel. He shook his head quickly. She laughed. Then, when I walked toward the refreshment table, she stepped in front of me. "You must be Elena," she said. I looked at her. "And you must be Cassandra." Her smile widened. "Daniel told me you were quiet. He told me you were business." Her face tightened slightly. "Good." Then she leaned closer. "This is not the place for wives who do not understand the room." I took one slow breath. I had spent years learning not to answer every insult quickly. Some insults need space to expose themselves. "This is a company party," I said. "I understand enough." She looked me up and down. "My dear, Daniel is presenting tonight. Important people are watching. You standing here looking wounded is distracting." Wounded. Not betrayed. Not disrespected. Wounded. As if my pain were bad decoration. I looked past her at Daniel. He was near the stage with 2 senior executives, pretending not to see us. That hurt more than her words. Because silence had always been his favorite betrayal. "Move," I said. Cassandra blinked. "Excuse me?" I said move. Her smile vanished. The billionaire daughter was not used to being spoken to in single-syllable words. She touched my arm first. Lightly. A warning disguised as manners. "Elena, let's not embarrass ourselves." I pulled my arm back. "Do not touch me." That was when she lost control. Not loudly. Not like poor people are accused of doing. Rich people often lose control with neat posture and low voices. She gripped my arm harder and turned me toward the entrance. "I said," she whispered, You need to leave. Then she dragged me. In front of everyone. My heel caught on the floor. My glass tipped. Champagne splashed across my hand. A woman gasped. Someone said, "Cassandra." Daniel finally moved. Not toward me, toward the appearance of disaster. "Cass," he said sharply, "stop." But by then, it was too late. The room had seen. The staff had seen. The cameras had seen. And more importantly, the old man standing near the back of the ballroom had seen. Mr. Nathaniel Rowe, founder of Meridian Global Holdings, 81 years old, silver hair, walking cane, mind sharper than every young man who thought age made him irrelevant. He was the man who had secretly sold me enough private shares over the past 3 years to make me the largest individual shareholder in the company. Higher than Daniel, higher than Cassandra, higher than any board member in that ballroom. Only 3 people knew: Mr. Rowe, my lawyer, Miriam Blake, and me. Cassandra dragged me another step. Then Mr. Rowe's voice cut through the ballroom. "Take your hand off my majority shareholder." The room went silent. Cassandra froze. Her fingers were still around my arm. Daniel's face changed so quickly that I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Cassandra turned her head slowly. "What did you say?" Mr. Rowe walked forward with his cane tapping softly against the floor. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound landed like a judge entering court. "I said," he repeated, "take your hand off Elena Hart. She owns the highest voting stock in this company." The silence became complete. Not quiet, complete. Even the waiters stopped moving. Cassandra's hand loosened. I stepped away from her and smoothed my dress. My arm hurt a little. Not badly, but enough. Daniel stared at me like I had become someone else, while standing in the same body he had underestimated for 10 years. "Elena?" he said. His voice was not apologetic yet. It was frightened. That was different. Mr. Rowe stopped beside me. "Are you all right?" I looked at Cassandra. Then Daniel. Then the room full of people who had finally found me interesting. "I am now," I said. Cassandra laughed once, but it came out thin. "This is absurd." Mr. Rowe turned to her. "Is it?" She lifted her chin. "Meridian is not some family bakery where someone quietly buys influence at the back door." A few people flinched. She did not know. Of course she did not know. That my family had owned a bakery. That my mother had died with flour under her nails. That every dollar I used to buy my first Meridian shares came from a bakery supply formula Daniel once mocked as small woman business. Mr. Rowe smiled faintly. "No, Ms. Voss, Meridian is a corporation, which means shares matter more than your tone." Someone near the board table coughed. Cassandra looked at Daniel. "Did you know about this?" Daniel could not answer. Because the truth was worse than no. He should have known. I had sat across from him for years, listening to him discuss Meridian as if I were furniture. I had read reports he left on our dining table. I had corrected numbers he misunderstood. I had warned him which divisions were undervalued and which board members were performing competence instead of practicing it. He had laughed once and said, "Elena, you have a good eye for domestic details. Leave corporate strategy to those of us inside the room." Inside the room. Tonight, he stood inside the room and learned I owned more of it than he did. Mr. Rowe lifted his hand. "Miriam?" My lawyer stepped forward from the side entrance. She had been waiting. Navy suit, short gray hair, red folder, the kind of calm that makes guilty people check their posture. "Ladies and gentlemen," Miriam said, "for legal clarity, Elena Hart is the beneficial owner of the highest percentage of voting shares currently held by any individual shareholder of Meridian Global Holdings. Her ownership stake was acquired lawfully through private sale agreements, founder transfer options, and registered family trust vehicles." The room rippled. Executives whispered. Board members exchanged looks. Daniel looked like the floor had opened under him. Miriam continued. "Ms. Hart has also requested an ethics review regarding improper conduct at tonight's corporate event. including physical removal by a non-employee investor affiliate and potential conflicts arising from undisclosed personal relationships affecting Meridian negotiations. Cassandra's eyes sharpened. Careful. Miriam looked at her. I usually am. Daniel stepped toward me. Elena, this is going too far. I turned to him. No, Daniel, you dragged it here. Cassandra only helped. His face tightened. You should have told me. There it was. Not sorry. Not are you hurt. Not I was wrong. You should have told me. As if my private ownership was the betrayal. As if I owed him advance notice before becoming difficult to humiliate. I took the microphone from the stunned event host standing nearby. My hand shook. Just a little. Then it steadied. The speakers gave a soft crackle. Everyone looked at me. For 10 years, I had watched Daniel use microphones. At conferences, company dinners, investor meetings, award nights, he always spoke as if words naturally belonged to him. Tonight, the microphone felt heavy but honest in my hand. I did not come here to create a scene, I said. My voice carried across the ballroom. I came here because I was invited to witness the future of a company I have quietly believed in, invested in, and protected for years. Daniel looked down. Good. I have spent much of my marriage listening to people call my work small because it began in kitchens, bakeries, community supply rooms, and women-owned businesses. I have listened to my husband speak over me, underestimate me, use my ideas, and leave me out of rooms while expecting me to support everything that made him look powerful. No one moved. Tonight, Miss Voss decided I did not belong in this room. She put her hands on me and tried to drag me out. Cassandra's jaw tightened. I want everyone here to understand something. I looked directly at Daniel. Being quiet does not mean absent. Being kind does not mean weak. Being a wife does not mean being invisible. And being underestimated does not mean being unqualified. Mr. Rose smiled slightly beside me. I continued. As majority individual shareholder, I am requesting a full ethics review before any pending partnership with Voss Capital moves forward. I am also requesting temporary suspension of Daniel Hart's strategic proposal authority until the board determines whether personal conflicts affected corporate judgment. Daniel's face went pale. Cassandra turned toward him. Daniel? He still had no answer. I gave the microphone back. Then I walked out of the ballroom, not dragged, not ashamed, not shaking. Behind me, I heard voices erupt. Questions. Whispers. Cassandra demanding to speak to counsel. Daniel calling my name. Mr. Rose cane tapping once as he said, "Let her go, Mr. Hart. You should have listened when she was willing to stay." Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if you have ever been pushed out of a room you secretly helped build, stay with this story. Because sometimes the people who drag you toward the exit do not know your name is already written on the deed, the shares, and the final decision. My name is Elena Hart. Before marriage, I was Elena Monroe. Before money, I was the baker's daughter. Before boardrooms, I was the girl who could smell when bread was ready before the timer rang. I grew up behind Monroe Bakery, a narrow shop on a busy street where the morning smelled like yeast, sugar, butter, coffee, and survival. My mother, Ruth Monroe, owned the bakery with her older brother until he left for Canada and took more than his share of money with him. After that, it was just my mother. And me. My father was a photograph in a drawer, and a name my mother did not say unless official forms required it. He left when I was 3. I used to imagine he was lost, then busy, then sorry. By the time I turned 12, I stopped imagining. My mother never spoke badly of him. That was her mercy, or her exhaustion. She simply said, "Some people leave because staying would require character they do not have." Then she went back to kneading dough. The bakery was small, but it fed half the neighborhood. Workers bought meat pies before sunrise. School children bought sweet rolls. Mothers ordered birthday cakes. Old men drank tea near the window and argued about politics. I did homework beside flour sacks, learned fractions from recipe measurements, learned negotiation from customers who wanted discounts, Learned dignity from watching my mother say, "No, ma'am, this cake costs what it costs." My mother had a rule: never let anyone call small work small when it feeds people. I carried that sentence like a prayer. At 17, I began helping with inventory and supplier orders. By 19, I knew our margins better than some accountants. I could look at a flour invoice and know whether the supplier had shifted prices unfairly. I could predict holiday demand. I could tell which products brought loyalty and which only brought noise. I wanted to study business analytics. My mother wanted that too. She saved in envelopes: tuition, books, transport, emergency. Every envelope had my future written on it in her neat handwriting. Then she got sick. Kidney failure. The kind that does not arrive like thunder. It arrives like fatigue, swollen ankles, missed workdays, hospital visits, bills, more bills. The envelopes emptied. I deferred university, then deferred again. I worked the bakery full-time, took online courses at night, and learned financial modeling from library books and free videos. I did not have a degree then, but I had hunger. Hunger teaches focus when comfort is not available. My mother died when I was 24. The morning after her funeral, I opened the bakery alone. People told me to rest, but bills do not observe grief. I stood behind the counter, wearing my mother's apron, and served bread with a smile that broke every time someone said, "She would be proud." I met Daniel Hart 6 months later. He came into the bakery wearing a navy suit and carrying a laptop bag. He ordered black coffee, tasted one of our honey rolls, and paused. "This is not ordinary," he said. I looked up. "Nothing in here is." He smiled. That was the beginning. Daniel was 32, already rising fast at Meridian Global Holdings, a food logistics and investment company that supplied restaurants, grocery chains, hotels, and packaged food producers. He worked in strategy. He spoke beautifully about markets, scale, distribution, and opportunity. He made my bakery sound important in ways I had always felt but rarely heard from outsiders. "Elena," he said during one of his early visits, "you understand consumer loyalty better than half my department." I laughed. "I sell bread." "No, you understand return behavior, pricing psychology, product memory, local supply dependencies." I did not know whether to be impressed or annoyed. I chose impressed. He kept coming. At first for coffee, then for conversation, then for me. He asked smart questions. He remembered my mother's name. He brought me a book on food supply chains and wrote inside it, "For the woman who already understands markets better than markets understand her." That inscription made me fall faster than I should have. When you have been strong alone for too long, admiration can feel like shelter. We dated for 2 years. Daniel was charming, ambitious, and careful in the early way people are, when they still want to win you. He listened to my ideas about small food businesses. He encouraged me to expand the bakery's wholesale side. He introduced me to a local hotel purchasing manager who became my first steady institutional client. I was grateful. Too grateful. Gratitude can become a leash when someone later uses early kindness to excuse ongoing harm. With that hotel contract, Monroe Bakery grew. Not huge, but stronger. I hired 2 bakers, then a delivery driver, then bought better equipment, then developed a line of frozen, ready-to-bake pastries for cafes. Daniel helped me prepare the first pitch deck. I built the numbers. He made them shine. We were good together then. I must tell the truth. He did not begin as a villain. He was funny, generous sometimes, tender on quiet nights. He sat with me on the anniversary of my mother's death and did not try to fix the grief. He proposed in the bakery after closing, with fairy lights strung across the shelves and my employees hiding behind the kitchen door, trying badly not to cry. I said yes. Our wedding was simple but beautiful. White flowers, warm food, a cake made by my staff from my mother's recipe. Daniel's colleagues attended in expensive clothes and said things like, "Elena is so grounded, and Daniel needs someone real." Someone real. I thought they meant it kindly. Later, I understood that some people praise your roots only while expecting you not to grow branches taller than theirs. Marriage changed slowly. Not at first. At first, Daniel bragged about me. My wife runs a bakery supply business. My wife understands small food ecosystems. My wife has better instincts than most consultants. Then Meridian promoted him to senior strategy director. Then he entered rooms where men wore watches worth more than our first oven. Then the way he described me began shifting. My wife runs a local bakery. My wife does small food stuff. My wife likes to keep busy. Small, local, stuff. Keep busy. Words can shrink you before you notice the ceiling lowering. I told him once after a dinner, "You made my work sound like a hobby." He laughed. "No, I didn't. You said I keep busy." Elena, don't be sensitive. Those were investors. They don't need the full bakery story. The bakery story helped pay our mortgage. His jaw tightened. Here we go. Counting. He hated when I counted. He loved numbers in boardrooms, but hated them in marriage. Over the years, Monroe Bakery Supply became more than a bakery. I built wholesale contracts with schools, hospitals, hotels, and small cafe chains. I developed shelf-stable mixes. I partnered with women-owned farms. I created a system for small producers to pool deliveries and reduce costs. Daniel borrowed my language often. Community-scale logistics, supplier dignity, undervalued food networks, regional resilience. I heard those phrases appear in his presentations. When I asked, he said, "We talk. Ideas overlap. Ideas overlap." That is what he called taking without credit. I was still proud of him sometimes. That is the painful truth. When Meridian praised his strategy division, I felt a strange mix of anger and love. I knew some of that praise belonged to ideas born at our kitchen table, but I also remembered the man who once believed in me when the bakery lights flickered and bills were due. I kept waiting for that man to return. Instead, Cassandra arrived. Cassandra Voss did not enter Meridian quietly. She entered like a weather system. Voss Capital announced interest in strategic investment partnerships with food infrastructure companies, and suddenly everyone wanted her at dinners. Her father's wealth had made headlines for decades, but Cassandra had built her own reputation as a ruthless investor. She bought struggling companies, stripped weak divisions, polished profitable ones, and sold them at numbers that made business magazines call cruelty efficiency. Daniel admired her before he met her. After he met her, admiration became obsession. "She sees scale," he told me after their first meeting. I was reviewing bakery payroll. "Good. She understands how undervalued Meridian is. Many people understand that. No, not like her. She thinks we're sitting on a gold mine." I looked up. "Who is we?" He frowned. "What? You said we." He laughed. "Meridian. Obviously. But it was not obvious. But it was not obvious." Because Daniel had begun speaking like Meridian belonged to him. Cassandra began calling him directly, then inviting him to private strategy dinners, then requesting him for closed-door sessions, then weekend meetings. Daniel said this was normal at his level. I said, "Affairs often hide behind calendar invitations." He slammed his glass down. "You are threatened by successful women." I stared. "Daniel, I am a successful woman." He smiled sadly, and that smile hurt more than anger. "Elena, you know what I mean." Yes, I did. He meant women who looked like Cassandra. Women with private jets, global capital, and last names that made bankers sweat. Not women who built from ovens and invoices. Not women who still smelled bread in their hair after long days. The affair became undeniable at the Meridian Leadership Retreat. Daniel said spouses were not invited. Then a photo appeared online from Cassandra's assistant. It was quickly deleted, but not before someone sent it to me. Daniel and Cassandra, standing on a balcony at sunset. Too close. Too familiar. Her hand on his chest. His smile unguarded. I waited until he came home. It was nearly midnight. I was sitting at the dining table with the photo printed in front of me. Old-fashioned, maybe, but I wanted paper between us. He looked at it, then at me. I can explain. Then do. He sat, sighed, rubbed his face, performed exhaustion. Elena, Cassandra, and I have a connection. Connection? What kind? A powerful one. I almost laughed. Does powerful mean physical? He looked away. That was answer enough. I expected to scream. I did not. I felt cold, deep cold, like something inside me finally stopped trying to warm him. How long? He said nothing. How long, Daniel? 3 months. Liar. It had been longer, but 3 months was what he believed I could survive hearing. I stood. He reached for my hand. Elena, wait. No. You need to understand. This is complicated. No, logistics are complicated. Betrayal is simple. His face hardened. You always do this. You reduce everything to morality. What should I reduce it to? Strategy? He pushed back from the table. Cassandra challenges me. She pulls me into bigger rooms. She believes in what I can become. I looked around our dining room, at the table where I had reviewed his speeches, the kitchen where I had fed him through every promotion, the shelf where my mother's recipe books sat beside his leadership awards. I believed in what you were before bigger rooms taught you to despise the woman holding the door open. His face changed, but not enough. He moved out 2 weeks later. Not officially. He said he needed space. Men often need space after filling yours with damage. He rented a luxury apartment near Meridian's office. Cassandra was seen there within a month. I filed for separation quietly. He delayed. Of course. He did not want the marriage, but he wanted the image of a man whose personal life was being handled privately. I let him have none of my silence for free anymore. Around that same time, Mr. Nathaniel Rowe entered my life. I had met him only once before, at a Meridian charity dinner years earlier. He had founded the company from a family grain transport business, expanded it into regional logistics, and then global holdings. By the time I met him properly, he had stepped away from daily leadership, but still held significant founder shares and quiet influence. He came to Monroe Bakery Supply one rainy afternoon. No security, no announcement. Just an old man with a cane and a driver waiting outside. I recognized him immediately. Mr. Rowe? He smiled. Mrs. Hart, or should I say, Ms. Monroe. I froze. He noticed. Forgive me, I hear things. I invited him into my small office behind the production kitchen. He looked around with interest, not judgment. Flour dust on the floor, delivery charts on the wall, supplier maps, invoices clipped in stacks, a photo of my mother. He studied the maps longest. You built this network? Yes. Daniel presented something similar at Meridian. My throat tightened. I know. He looked at me. I suspected as much. I did not know what to say. He sat carefully. Mrs. Hart, I built Meridian because small producers were always at the mercy of large transporters. The company has drifted. Men like your husband speak of scale, but forget the hands that fill the trucks. I listened. He continued. I have watched Daniel rise. He is intelligent, charming, but he mistakes borrowed insight for genius. Tears burned behind my eyes. To be seen accurately after years of being edited can feel almost unbearable. Mr. Rowe leaned forward. I am old enough to know when a company needs protection from its own ambition. I am also old enough to know when a woman has been doing work others have learned to rename. That was how it began. Not with revenge, with recognition. Mr. Rowe wanted to sell portions of his private shares slowly, quietly, to someone who understood Meridian's original purpose and had the patience to hold them. He did not want Voss Capital gaining too much influence. He did not trust Cassandra. He trusted Daniel even less, because Daniel admired her too much. I told him I did not have billionaire cash. He smiled. I did not ask if you had ego money. I asked if you had structure. We built the structure. Miriam Blake, my lawyer, created vehicles using profits from Monroe Bakery Supply, a trust from my mother's estate that had grown through property I had sold, and financing secured by my company contracts. It was complex, legal, and slow. For 3 years, I acquired shares. Quietly. Every time Daniel dismissed my work, I bought more. Every time Cassandra appeared in business news beside him, I bought more. Every time Meridian undervalued small producers, I studied reports. Not because I wanted to destroy the company, because I wanted to protect what men like Daniel were willing to sell for applause. By the night of the party, the transfer was complete. I was the largest individual voting shareholder. The annual company party was supposed to introduce Voss Capital's new strategic partnership proposal. Daniel was expected to present. Cassandra was expected to shine. The board was expected to applaud. I was expected to stay home. Instead, Mr. Rowe sent me an invitation. Formal, direct, with one handwritten line. Come stand in the room you already own a piece of. So I went. I wore a dark emerald dress, simple gold earrings, and my mother's ring. Not Daniel's ring, my mother's. I entered alone. People looked. Some recognized me as Daniel's wife and seemed confused. A few nodded politely. One woman from finance whispered my name like a question. Daniel saw me near the entrance and crossed the room quickly. What are you doing here? I smiled. Good evening to you too. Elena, this is not a good night. For whom? His eyes flashed. Don't do this. Do what? Make things difficult. I looked around, at the marble floors, the company banners, the champagne towers, the stage where he planned to stand and speak words he had polished partly from my mind. I was invited. By who? Someone who knows I belong here. He looked unsettled. Then Cassandra appeared. She slid her hand onto his arm with deliberate grace. Elena, she said, pretending warmth. What a surprise. I looked at her hand, then her face. Cassandra. Daniel stepped slightly between us. I'll handle this, he murmured to her. I smiled. Still outsourcing courage? His jaw tightened. Cassandra's eyes sharpened. That was the beginning of the confrontation. She had expected weakness. I gave her stillness. She called my presence distracting. I told her to move. She touched me. I warned her. She dragged me. Mr. Rowe stopped her, and the room learned my name. After I walked out of the ballroom, I did not leave the building. I went to the women's restroom near the east corridor, locked myself in a stall, and finally let my hands shake. Not because I regretted anything, because being publicly vindicated does not erase public humiliation. Your body still remembers the hand on your arm, the eyes, the scrape of your heel. The years that led to that moment. I stood there breathing slowly, one palm against the door, while voices entered and left. Women whispering. Did you know? No? Did you? She owns what? Daniel is finished. Cassandra looked furious. Then the restroom emptied. A knock came at the outer door. Elena? Miriam. I opened the stall. She stood near the sink, holding tissues and wearing the expression of someone who had already planned 3 legal consequences. Are you hurt? My arm is sore. We document it. I'm okay. We document okay too. That made me laugh, then cry. Miriam held me carefully. You did well. I hate that everyone saw. I know. I wanted control. You had it. She dragged me, and then the truth dragged her. I laughed through tears. Miriam was not soft often, but when she was good at it. Mr. Rowe waited outside with his driver and a security supervisor. He looked at my face once and said, "Enough for tonight." "No," I said. Both Miriam and Mr. Rowe looked at me. "I am not leaving through a side exit." Mr. Rowe smiled. "Your mother raised you correctly." Yes, she did. So we returned to the ballroom, not to continue the party, to finish the record. The atmosphere had changed completely. Small groups stood whispering. The board had gathered near the side stage. Cassandra was on the phone, speaking sharply. Daniel stood alone, looking at nothing. When I entered, he moved toward me. Miriam stepped in front of him. "Careful, Mr. Hart." He stopped. "Elena," he said. "Please, just 5 minutes." I looked at him. "You had years." His face crumpled slightly, then hardened again, because pride hates witnesses. "You don't understand what this will do to the company." "I understand exactly what secrecy does to a company." Cassandra ended her call and walked toward us. Her voice was controlled now. "Elena, I owe you an apology for the physical contact. Not for humiliation. Not for the affair. Not for standing in another woman's marriage like a trophy. Physical contact. Rich people can make apologies sound like insurance forms. I said, accepted for the record, not forgiven personally." Her eyes flickered. Miriam nearly smiled. Cassandra continued. "This entire matter has become unnecessarily emotional." "No," I said. "It became visible." She looked around. "You are risking shareholder value." I stepped closer. "I am shareholder value." Someone behind me made a sound they quickly swallowed. Cassandra's jaw tightened. "You do not want me as an enemy." I looked at her silver dress, her diamonds, her perfect face, her expensive confidence. Then I thought of my mother standing at a bakery counter, telling a rich customer, "This cake costs what it costs." "I do not want you as anything," I said. "That is your problem." Daniel whispered, "Elena, stop." I turned to him. "You first." For the first time that night, he looked ashamed. Real shame. Not fear of losing Cassandra. Not fear of losing position. Shame. It arrived late, but I saw it. The board chair, Mr. Langley, approached. "Elena, we need to convene tomorrow morning." "Tonight," Mr. Rowe said. Langley hesitated. "Mr. Rowe, it's nearly tonight," he repeated, "before anyone has time to rewrite what happened." So they convened. Not the full board meeting. An emergency executive session. I was invited. Daniel was not. Cassandra was not. That alone told the company everything it needed to know. During the meeting, I spoke plainly. I did not ask for revenge. I asked for governance. Review of Voss Capital's pending proposal. Disclosure of personal relationships tied to strategic negotiations. Investigation into Daniel's use of company resources, influence, and confidential discussions connected to Cassandra. Review of supplier network plans that had borrowed heavily from work created by Monroe Bakery Supply and women-owned regional producers without proper credit or compensation. Ethics procedures for company events. Board members listened differently when I spoke as the highest individual shareholder. That is not noble. It is reality. Power often makes people hear what pain could not. By midnight, the board voted to pause the Voss partnership. Daniel was placed on administrative leave pending review. Cassandra's firm received formal notice. A public statement was drafted. No names beyond what was legally necessary. No scandal language. No emotional fog. Just review. Pause. Governance. The words that make powerful people nervous because they sound calm enough to hold. When I finally left the building, the city air felt cold and clean. Daniel was waiting outside near the valet stand, alone. No Cassandra, no crowd, no microphone. "Elena," he said. I kept walking. He followed at a distance. "Please." I stopped. Miriam stood beside the car, watching. I turned. Daniel's face looked worn. For a second, I remembered him in the bakery years ago, tasting honey rolls and telling me nothing in here is ordinary. Memory can be cruel in how faithfully it preserves people before they hurt you. "What?" I asked. He swallowed. "I did not know." "That I owned the shares?" "Yes." "You did not know many things." "I know." "No, Daniel, you don't. You did not know because you stopped being curious about me after you decided Cassandra was bigger. You did not know because you thought my world was too small to hide power. You did not know because I became most useful to you when I was silent." His eyes filled. I was wrong. Yes. I let Cassandra. Do not put your choices in her hands. He nodded quickly. You're right. I chose it. That surprised me. A little. I chose her attention, he said. I chose the access. I chose the way she made me feel important. And me? His face tightened. I took you for granted. No, I said softly. You took from me and called it overlap. He closed his eyes. The words hit. Good. I am sorry, he whispered. For what specifically? He opened his eyes. For the affair. For using your ideas. For making your work sound small. For letting Cassandra touch you tonight. For not stopping her before Mr. Rowe had to. For asking why you didn't tell me, instead of asking if you were hurt. Specific. Late. Still painful. I hear you, I said. Hope appeared. I did not feed it. But I am done being your uncredited partner. His face fell. Elena, my lawyer will handle the separation. He looked like he wanted to argue. Then, finally, he did not. I got into the car. As we drove away, I looked back once. Daniel stood under the company lights, smaller than the building he had tried to claim through borrowed brilliance. The next weeks were loud. Not in my home. In the world. Business reporters noticed the Voss partnership pause. Anonymous employees leaked that a dramatic incident happened at the annual party. A blurry video circulated internally, then externally, showing Cassandra pulling my arm and Mr. Rowe naming me majority shareholder. The internet did what the internet does. Some defended me. Some called me calculating. Some called Cassandra arrogant. Some said Daniel was a fool. Some asked how a wife secretly bought the highest voting stock without her husband knowing. That question amused Miriam. Men have hidden entire second families, and people are shocked you hid a brokerage account, she said. I laughed for the first time in days. Monroe Bakery Supply received attention too. Reporters discovered our network. Women-owned farms, regional deliveries, school contracts, hospital partnerships. The company Daniel had dismissed as small became a case study in practical logistics. I agreed to one interview. Only one. I wore my mother's ring. The journalist asked, "Why did you acquire Meridian shares quietly?" I answered, "Because I believed in the company's original purpose, and I did not believe the people speaking loudest were protecting it." She asked, "Was this about revenge against your husband?" I paused. No. Revenge would have been too small. This was about ownership. That line traveled. Daniel resigned before the investigation finished. The report found undisclosed conflicts, improper influence in Voss-related strategy discussions, and unattributed use of concepts from external small producer networks. It did not call him a thief in simple language. Corporate reports rarely do. They prefer phrases like failure to disclose, inadequate attribution, conflicts of interest, and breach of governance expectations. But everyone understood. Cassandra fought harder. Voss Capital threatened legal action, then softened when discovery requests began reaching places she preferred remain dark. The partnership died quietly. Cassandra released a statement about pursuing other opportunities aligned with shareholder value. Translation: She lost and wanted to look busy. I did not celebrate publicly. Privately, I sat in my mother's old bakery after closing, ate a honey roll, and cried. Not because Cassandra lost. Because my mother had not lived to see the day her small work sat at the center of a global company's future. Mr. Rowe came to the bakery the next morning. He ordered black coffee and stood near my mother's photo. "She would be proud," he said. I nodded. "I hope so. She would also tell you to improve the coffee." I laughed. She hated our coffee. Then why sell it? Men liked complaining about it while buying bread. He smiled. Good business model. Meridian changed slowly after that. I did not become CEO. I did not want that. I became board chair of a new supplier dignity and regional resilience committee, which sounds boring until you understand boring committees decide whether people eat or get crushed by margins. We invested in small producers, created fair payment systems, audited supplier contracts, expanded regional logistics, built partnerships with women-owned food businesses. And yes, Monroe Bakery Supply became a strategic partner, with contracts, credit, payment, paper. The holy trinity of respect. My separation from Daniel became divorce. He did not fight as hard as I expected. Maybe shame had tired him. Maybe losing Cassandra and Meridian within the same season humbled him. Maybe his lawyer was simply honest about the documents. During mediation, Daniel looked thinner. He wore a gray suit and no wedding ring. I noticed. Not because I wanted it there, because absence can still hurt when it marks something once sacred. He said, "I do not deserve anything from Monroe Bakery." That is correct. Miriam looked surprised he said it first. He continued, "I told myself your business grew because I opened doors, but you built the rooms." I looked at him. That is true. He nodded. I am sorry I could not say it when it mattered. So am I. The divorce was settled cleanly. No dramatic courtroom, no shouting, just signatures. Outside the courthouse, Daniel asked if we could speak for a minute. Miriam gave me the look that said absolutely not, but I trust your adult judgment reluctantly. I nodded. Daniel and I stood near a stone bench under a cloudy sky. He said, "Cassandra was never going to choose me after the partnership collapsed." I almost smiled. That surprises you? No, not now. He looked down. I think I loved what she represented. I know. And you represented where I came from. That sentence touched something old. Not softly. Honestly. The bakery? I asked. He nodded. The work, the patience, the small things. I wanted to be too big for them. And me? His eyes filled. You were never small. I needed you to be. That was the truest thing he had ever said. I felt tears rise, but they did not fall. Thank you for saying that. He looked at me. Do you forgive me? There it was. The question people ask when they want their pain shortened by the person they hurt. I breathed in. I am working on freeing myself from carrying you. That may or may not become forgiveness, but it will not become access. He nodded slowly. That's fair. It was. A year later, Meridian hosted another annual party. Different venue, different tone. Less gold, more substance. Small producers were invited. Warehouse managers, drivers, women-owned suppliers, factory workers. Executives still came, of course. Power never misses a room where it might be photographed. But the room felt less like a throne and more like a table. I stood near the stage with Mr. Rowe. He was weaker by then, but still sharp. You ready? He asked. For what? To be thanked publicly. I groaned. He smiled. Consider it medicine. I hate medicine. Most useful things taste unpleasant. When they called my name, I walked to the stage. Not as Daniel's wife. Not as the woman dragged toward the exit. As Elena Monroe, chairwoman, major shareholder, baker's daughter. The applause rose. I saw employees from Monroe Bakery Supply crying near the front. I saw women farmers clapping. I saw old Meridian staff who had once ignored me now standing. That part mattered less than people think. Recognition from those who overlooked you is not as sweet as recognition from those who walked beside you when you were unseen. I spoke briefly. My mother used to say, never let anyone call small work small when it feeds people. I said, this company is strongest when it remembers that food begins long before it reaches a boardroom. It begins with hands, soil, ovens, trucks, early mornings, honest invoices, fair contracts, and people whose names deserve to be spoken. I looked across the room. No Cassandra. No Daniel. Good. I once believed being invited into powerful rooms was the goal. I was wrong. The goal is to make rooms answer to the people whose work built them. The applause came slowly, then warmly. Not explosive, real. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She worked in procurement. Elena, she said, I watched what happened last year. I nodded. I'm sorry you had to see that. She shook her head. No, I needed to. My manager had been taking credit for my reports. After that night, I started keeping records. I filed a complaint. I got promoted last month. My throat tightened. That is wonderful. She smiled. I learned from you that quiet work still needs a paper trail. I laughed. My lawyer would love you. That night, I went home to my apartment. Not the house Daniel and I once shared. I had sold it. Too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place near the bakery, with tall windows, wooden floors, and a kitchen where morning light fell across the counter exactly the way my mother would have loved. On the wall near the door, I hung a framed copy of Monroe Bakery's first wholesale invoice. Not stock certificates, not magazine covers. The first invoice. Proof that something small had begun. Sometimes people ask if I regret not telling Daniel about the shares earlier. Number. He had access to my mind for years and treated it like background noise. He had access to my work and called it overlap. He had access to my loyalty and spent it trying to impress a woman who saw him as useful. He did not lose information because I hid it. He lost it because he stopped listening. Cassandra dragged me out of the company party because she thought I was only a wife in the old, invisible meaning. Decoration, obstacle, emotional inconvenience. She did not know I owned the highest stock. But even more than that, she did not know I owned myself. That was the part Daniel had missed too. By the time she grabbed my arm, I was no longer the woman waiting at the dining table with a printed photo, hoping betrayal had an explanation gentle enough to survive. I was no longer the woman who let words like small and local and bakery shrink the rooms inside her. I was no longer the wife who accepted being spoken over because correcting a man in public might injure his pride. I was a woman with records, with shares, with counsel, with purpose, with my mother's ring on my hand. With enough truth behind me that one rich woman's grip could not move me very far. If you are listening from a place where someone has dragged you out of a room, spoken over your work, taken credit for your ideas, treated your loyalty like weakness, or made you feel too small to matter, hear me clearly. Keep your records. Name your work. Protect your ideas. Do not let love become unpaid labor with a wedding ring. Do not let powerful people convince you that your contribution is only real when they announce it. And never confuse being unseen with being unimportant. Some seeds grow underground. Some ownership is quiet. Some women are building while others are posing. One day, someone may try to remove you from a room you helped create. Stand steady, because the door is not the only way power enters. Sometimes it arrives through paper, through patience, through memory, through shares bought quietly while arrogant people laughed loudly. My husband's billionaire mistress dragged me out of the company party, unaware I secretly owned the highest stocks. But the real story is not that she lost. It is that I finally stopped waiting for people who benefited from my silence to invite me back inside. I walked in myself. And when they tried to pull me out, the whole room learned who had been holding the keys.